It's there. Okay. Hi, I don't know if anyone's here. It's 7:11. I was supposed to start at 7 and the camera refused to work. It just refused to stream. So those of you who are here, thank you. Those of you who waited the 10 minutes while I just about had a meltdown. Welcome to my studio. Welcome to my launch, and I hope folk who came and left will come back. I just want to welcome you to my launch for the minis. Um, and I thank you for your patience while I worked out why Firefox did not want to give my camera permission today. So, hi guys. Welcome to my studio and welcome to the launch of the minis. We'll have a little fun. We'll talk about art. We'll talk about the process of making the minis. We'll give away a Gullahlicious pound cake. And hey, there's only a few of us here, so that's going to limit that, make it real easy. And we'll have a little celebration. Now, I meant to start this with a song from my friend Mahogany. So I'm just going to play a little bit of that in the background. She wrote a song called Collard Green Crown. The dream has come alive, you're so vital. Your journey is so vast, you're intertribal. Oh, it tells our history. It feeds. Oh, it stopped. I tell you, I'm having tech problems today, but that's okay. I'm gonna take a deep breath and let you know about my work as an artist and the process of creating the mini collared crowns. So I have been an artist since I was a little girl. I just didn't know I was an artist. I was just the one who drew things. I drew things for the other kids in kindergarten. I uh, drew pictures of folk that I knew at church. Um, I had a friend named Mary Gibbs when I was in sixth grade, and she took art class. And I went to her house, and she had an easel and paints and all that. And I had never seen a kid with paints and tubes and an easel before. And I told my daddy about it. And in 1973, that long ago, y'all, my daddy bought me an art set, and I began teaching myself how to use it. And that is what I have been doing now for the last, since that birthday. Wow, 50 years. No, 40 years. Long time. No. Anyway, long time, y'all. I've been doing that for a long time. Now, I have been very blessed and very grateful to be able to do a lot of that from here in my studio. But before I had this studio, I had something on St. Helena Island in Beaufort, South Carolina, uh, called Miss Natalie's Workshop. When Ron and I, you may know that my husband Ron and I had a TV show called Gullah Gullah Island. Yeah, we did that show for several years. And in 2000, when the show ended, we went back home and we bought a little piece of land on St. Helena Island. And there was a house on it, this old house. And I took that house and turned it into a studio. I called it Miss Natalie's Workshop. So I had my cousins and them help me out. You know, they knocked out a wall and they added a room onto the back with glass that faced the marsh. And the kitchen, we used that for tie dye and wax. And we had a room that was full of beads and you could make jewelry. And then we had just a big workroom along the back. So folk would come in. I painted all the floors cobalt blue. And folk would come in and make things. And I would make things. By that time, I hadn't been painting so much anymore. I was painting furniture. I was painting chairs and stuff. And I thought it's okay because it's, you know, it's functional and people can use it. But in 2004, the shop closed and a lot of other things happened. And I later moved into a little space called Artworks in Beaufort, South Carolina. And in Artworks, they had little art studios that you could rent or release, and they had a little black box theater. So I had a little 10 by 10 art studio. And in that 10 by 10 art studio, I couldn't build and paint furniture. So I actually started putting work that went up on the walls. and sort of reconnected with myself as a visual artist and as a painter. And that was a nice reconnection. So I began to do that. And what I think I had always been looking for in artworks and in Miss Natalie's workshop, the shop I had on St. Helena Island, I was looking for creative community. I always liked to be a part of a community of people who came together to create and explore and be curious and like chase their curiosity. And that's what I did uh, in those spaces. So some years later, here I am in Georgetown, South Carolina. And when I got to Georgetown County, I wasn't sure what to do with myself. So I decided to get a master's degree. And I decided to get a master's degree in the study of creativity. I was like, oh, you can get a degree in this? So I had always been, making art and doing those types of things. But when I started doing this study of creativity, my work began to change. And that's when the collard green showed up. The collard green showed up in 2013, kind of by accident. You see, I knew an artist in Beaufort. I didn't know her well, but I knew an artist who said, when you don't know what to paint, paint yourself. And so one day, right near Christmas, I wanted to paint something, and I had a board. I always liked to paint on wood at the time. And I thought, well, I'll just paint myself. And I set up my camera on a table on my porch. And there was a big old bunch of collard greens, because in my family, I'm the collard green cooker. I was. So I had the collard greens there on the porch and the table. So I just left them. And I set up the camera and I took a picture of me and the collard greens. And I was like, I like that. So I started to paint the collard greens into the painting. And as I did it, it's like the collard greens became its own character. It's like it wasn't just one person in there were two. And as I began to do that, it almost felt like my daddy entered the room. Now, my daddy passed in 2009, but he was a gardener, as was his mama before him. And he planted collard greens in every yard, in every house we ever lived at. Um, so it just felt like the collard greens were my daddy. So I painted them in, and then I just wanted to paint more. And so the next painting I did was of a little child sitting in a field of greens. And the thing about that painting is that everybody who saw it was like, oh, that looks like my grandchild. That looks like my niece. That looks like my, no matter the race of the person who saw that child, they thought that child looked like someone they knew. And it was something about the spirit of that child in that painting that somehow I was able to capture without even knowing how. And then I thought I'll do some other. So I wanted to do a collard green queen. And I thought it was like a beauty queen. So I had my daughter, Sarah McKeeba, pose holding collard greens like a beauty queen. And I painted that, but that wasn't quite what I wanted. So I just kept playing with it until I got the idea to dress her in a gown of greens. And that painting, the collard green queen, has become my most well-known painting. So anyway, that's how the collard greens started. And eventually they morphed into wings and into crowns and into hats and into all kinds of stuff. And I wanted to celebrate them and to introduce them to you and to let you know how they've come about. And I also want to give y'all a chance to ask me some questions later. And Mr. Ron is here. Thank you, Tracy. You said the collard green queen is your absolute favorite. She's like everybody's favorite. She's traveling around. She just got back from an exhibit in a gallery in Georgia, and she's on her way to a museum exhibit this month up in upstate South Carolina. So she makes, yeah, she makes her rounds, and she is for sale, y'all. Um, so I love it. And I'm going to give y'all a chance to ask me some questions because also, like I do, we want to give away a cake. But let me tell you now about the minis and how they started. For many years, I did a lot of school residencies, and I did it because I wanted to be accessible to our children. And I wanted them to hear stories and to know about themselves and to see themselves and to see how beautiful they are. So I was doing my very last school residency in the town of Greeleyville, South Carolina. Any of y'all ever heard of Greeleyville? Now, I hadn't until I got invited. And while I was there, I wanted to show the students what it was like as a working artist to start with a blank canvas and create something. So I brought this one right here. Let's see. I just brought that as a blank canvas, and I began working on it. That one is called the Initiation of Saint Harriet. Um, if y'all don't know about me, I love Harriet Tubman. Me and Harriet Tubman were like this. So they got to see me start with the blank canvas and to talk about how we move an idea from our head out into the world to become a real thing. And while I was there, I thought, well, in between, I might just do some little pieces. And then I thought about all the people who want to own an original piece of artwork. And my work, I've been doing it for a while and it becomes more and more valuable. So, some of my other pieces are very expensive. They can run between, 3,000 to 30,000. But I wanted to make some paintings that were accessible for everybody. So I made these little collard crown paintings. And I wanted to incorporate a lot of the stuff I love, like collard greens and gold leaf. So that's what you see here. I also used in these paper, you see this? I love gardening and I love nature, and I had a lot of nature magazines. So I began to cut up my magazines and make the clothing that I was putting on my little collard crown people. So each one is 8 inches by 8 inches. Some of them are on wood. And I started on wood because it just so happens that's what I had. I don't even know why I had them. And then I bought myself a bunch of little canvases, a gallery wrap, so you can hang them. And when I finished, I signed them and numbered them and put the year on them. So when folk get them, then become art collectors, they can have, they'll have the dated and you can understand the value. So there's a few of you here, and this is your opportunity if you'd like. If you have any questions about my creative process, my studio, my husband, he's over here because he's gonna present the Gullahlicious pound cake that one of y'all is gonna get sent in the mail. I will ship it to you when I have selected one of y'all to do it. So that will be there. But if you're thinking about any questions you might have about the work, I'll be happy to talk to you about it and try to answer any questions. And I appreciate y'all who hung around. I started 10 minutes late because the would not give my camera permission. I was like, come on, y'all. Come on. I hate being late. But I'm grateful for those of you who are here now. So if you have any questions, you can just type it in the box. I'll do my best to answer. And in the meantime, I'll talk a little bit about the studio before the sale goes live. So the studio I'm in now was my garage. And during the pandemic, I wanted a studio, didn't know how it would happen. And I tell you, like I pray, man. I'm a prayer. And I was like, and some of my prayers, though, they aren't like, oh, dear God, please do this thing. Sometimes the prayer is just me stating the desire of my heart. I really want a studio, and I don't know how I'm going to get it, but I really want it. And somehow during the year 2020, first there was that little government money. And then there was a young man who he just had just enough money so he could do the wiring and not stay sober. So I see a couple of questions. Tanya, you wanted to know, how did I decide the faces of each of the mini collard greens? Well, I first started on a face of someone familiar. So this one, believe it or not, there are each one's different. Each 30 is different, but there are different poses. And I started with a familiar face, and then I just kept altering it. So let's see. This one, actually, I started with a painting of myself. And then I did it again, but I just changed like maybe the skin tone, or I changed the fullness of the cheeks, or I changed the shape of the lips or the eyes. And so, there'll be 6 paintings with this perspective, looking off to the side, little side eye, because that's what I was doing. But they'll all be a little bit different. Can you tell about the beautiful collard queens and who are featured in the minis? Well, as I said, each of them are a little different. So they might, like this one was based off of me. If I were to but it's not me. And it was just me. And with each painting, I began to just think about all the different ways we are beautiful. I wanted to cover just a gamut of wonderful skin tones. And let's see, one of them is based on my daughter, Sarah. Let's see, this one here. Okay, I'm back. This one is based on my daughter, Sarah. But, and then I altered it. The nose is a little wider, or the lips are a little wider, or the skin colors are a little different. And that was just me exploring, hey, Bridget, all the ways they are. So, other than like one that really does look like me, the others, okay, Ron. Oh, yeah, here's the other one. This one actually looks more like Sarah, the one that I made. And then I just began to riff off of the faces of sometimes people I know. One of the things I do, I will meet people and then ask them if I can paint them. So if you look at the art on my website, and I hope you will a little bit, you will see where I might have put someone's name in. Like this one beautiful woman, we were in the airport and I was talking to her and I was like, can I take your picture? Can I paint you? I have stopped people on the street. And one woman, her name is Sarah Green. I've painted her about 3 times. I saw her on the street and had to approach her like, look, I'm not weird. I'm an artist, really honest. Okay, look, here's my Instagram feed. Can I take your picture? Can I paint you? So I have a collection of beautiful, beautiful people, men and women who I see. And I'm like, I stopped a mother and child. Little girl was about 3 and 4. She's about 4 years old, walking down the street. And I said, can I take your picture? And the mother said, yes. The little girl said, no. And then the mother said, it's okay. And the little girl, the whole time, she was like, and I painted her just like that. I painted her just like that. So that is how I get the faces of the people who I've painted frequently. Like this right here is actually Mahogany Amateur. She is a singer out of St. Helena Island, amazing performer. I painted her, and then she wrote the song Collard Green Crown based on the painting, and I love it. You should listen for the song. I told you that's Harriet Tubman back there, and I painted her as though she was in a West African female initiation. Down here is actually a commission piece I did for someone, a woman who was considered a matriarch and a chef and cook in Charleston. So that's what happens. Got any other questions before my husband tells you about the cake? Miss Johnson, I love your work. Do you still paint gourds? Yes, I do. I do. I did an exhibit not so long ago called Seeds, Cycles, and Sacred Vessels, and they were gourds, and I began to carve them. And I don't have any in the studio right now, and they aren't on my website, but I'm going to put them up. I like working with gourds. I love carving them and making instruments out of them. But yes, my gourd work now looks different than it used to. So I'll put it up because that's right, y'all. In 2020, I just was doing gourds, and then in 2021 and 2022, they took a turn. What about doing sculptures, April? I've been thinking about that. So I've been sculpting the gourds. A lot of people think my gourd work now, because I'm carving it, is clay or sculpture. I do actually have like 25 pounds of clay sitting over there, but I haven't had a chance to get to it yet because I really kind of want to do something 3-dimensional. You got any other questions? No? Okay. Oh, is that for our libation? Oh, okay. Okay. Before we do the cake, and there's not that many people, so it's gonna your chances are very good to get a cake, even if you've already had one, Bridget. The chances are really good. So I don't know if you're familiar with the act of libation. That's when you pour the water and you give gratitude to your elders and the ancestors who came before you. And I meant to start with that, but I was so flustered because I was late. I was so flustered because my camera wasn't working that I sat here and just like cried a little bit because I hated to be late. So this is a plant, by the way, that I got from my friend Stephanie Burt, who's a writer and who wrote a really nice article about me in the magazine called Bitter Southerner. So I'm gonna put a link there somewhere for you. So let's see. I'm gonna just use. Yeah. Okay. Great. So this is in honor of all of you who have gathered in my little welcoming little debut party. This is in honor of the ancestors who have been creative before me. This is in honor of those who wanted to be creative and did not feel like they had the time or the energy. This is in honor of the opportunity I have had to make this work. Ashe and amen. And yes, they are going to be on my page as soon as we wrap here. They will go live on my page, each one of the 30. If you go to the page immediately, you can see them scrolling, but they aren't available to sale until I hit the button. And I'm going to hit that button. And before we do that, though, we're going to give away a cake. And then I'm going to hit the button. So let's see. Right now, there are 14 people here. So this is real easy. Let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4. So what I want is everyone who has not, if you have not made a comment, make a comment. And then I'm going to just do a random number generator and pick somebody to get a cake. But Ron, come this way, come this way. If you haven't made a comment.
Yes.
So this is, ta-da, tell them about your cake, baby.
This is a Mr. Ron's Gullahlicious Lessons pound cake. If you look at the top, it is adorned with edible gold. Wonder who I got that idea from? Well, anyway, with every new flavor that tantalizes your tongue, you ought to give thanks to God and the ancestors for all that they've done to provide you with a blessing in any way. And as we gave the libation, think about those members of your own lives, your personal families. We'll call out a few names of ours. Kathleen Days,
Elizabeth Shields,
Mildred Days,
William Eldridge,
Irene Hicks, all the women, particularly the collard green wearers of your lives who brought honor to you.
And the collard green cookers, whether that's even if that's you. Now I have been, thank you, sweetheart. So this is going to be shipped to one of y'all. So I hope all 14 of you, at least everybody on, I hope you have at least Irene Hicks. Yes. The gold, perfect. Yeah, we wanted to do something special for these cakes. So what I'm going to do, I see these names, and so you're here. I'm going to just use a random number generator. It's going to pick a number, and I'm going to say boom, and I'm going to send you a cake. All right. Everybody who's on, make sure you've made a comment so that you can get a cake. Random number generator between 1 and 14. Okay. And has everybody made a comment? Everybody made a comment? All right. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. And I hit generate. And it went to number 10. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ha! Tanya Smith. Tanya, you got yourself a cake. So what I'd like you to do, Miss Tanya, is when we finish here, I want you to either direct DM me in Instagram or in Facebook, if you have either of those, and give me your address so that you can get your cake. I will send it to you. There is nothing you have to do. Ah, it's Tanya Faulkner. Yay! Miss Faulkner made our wedding cake. 37 years ago, she made our wedding cake. So this is like, okay, so y'all, this is what's getting ready to happen. I'm going to push a couple of buttons and it will be live on the website. And then they will be available for purchase. You can look at each one. I did not give them names. You can give them names if you like. When she comes to you, you'll know who they are. So you see me right now. I am just pushing the go lives of these mini collard crowns. There are 30 of them. They were a pleasure to do. Okay, now I'm going to edit them again so that they are not hidden. So it's going to take me a minute. It'll be about 2 minutes, but you'll have them. And please, Tanya, make sure you send me your addresses. And everyone who's been here, thank you for coming for a little lunch. Thank you for being part of my creative community. I'm going to let you know what's coming up. I have a workshop called 40 Days to Create Developing Your Creative Practice, a Spiritual Approach, because I call creativity my spiritual practice. That class will go live sometime this month, and it is 40 modules, morning and evening. I actually did this in 2021 for everybody who was on our my Patreon. I did live streaming every morning at 6 a.m. and every evening at 8. And I've saved all of those, and we're putting it together in a module, and I'm going to release that. And children's book will be out in November. You can pre-order Okra Stew, Amazon or Barnes & Noble. Just go in and enter Okra Stew by Natalie Days, and you can pre-order my first children's book that I've written and illustrated. So, yay! So good things ahead. Thank you, guys. Thank you for coming. Keep coming back. I'll be doing more live stuff. Oh, now a whole bunch of folk just showed up, and I'm about to wrap, y'all. I was late though, and so for those of you who just showed up, I want to give you that chance. If you have some questions you'd like to ask, because I would just hate to say to the folks who just showed up, if you didn't have any questions and you wanted to ask it, I would hate for you to feel like, oh my God. Okay, Eugenia. Thank you. Be blessed. Okay, y'all. Well, those of you who just showed up, you can watch this. You can watch it. And it's been my pleasure to share this time with you. Wait about 2 minutes. Go to the website and you can get your own mini color crown. All right. Bye, guys.